Hello friends, it's Miss McGann. I'm here again, once again, to talk about the Pythagorean theorem. So yes, you can do these problems. I believe in you. Today we're going to talk about finding leg lengths. So we've looked at finding the hypotenuse in previous videos, but now we're going to find leg A, leg B. We're going to try and find those different leg lengths. You can figure out any of these leg lengths given the other two. So we're going to show you how. If a right triangle has a side length of 3 inches and the hypotenuse is 5 inches, what is the other leg length? Remember, guys, from previous videos, hypotenuse is the longest side, so we know that this other leg length is going to have to be smaller than 5. And it also is across from the 90-degree angle. But we also want to remember that we need to do inverse operations. So whenever we're trying to move something to another side, we're going to do the opposite operation. That's going to come into play here. So use inverse operations to solve equations. You've done that in the past. So here's our formula, the Pythagorean theorem, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So if we plug in our numbers, so we have 3 for a, 5 for c. You could have put 3 for b. That's fine too. A and b are interchangeable, but for our purposes, that's what we're going to do today. So 3 squared is 9 plus b squared equals 25. And remember, we can only combine like terms, so we can't combine 9 and b squared because that is a variable. So now we've got to figure out, how are we going to get b by itself to figure out what b is? And we know from previous algebra lessons that if we just do the opposite operation, so 9 is positive or is being added, we're going to subtract 9 from both sides. Then we can eliminate this 9 on this side, and we'll just be left with b squared equals 25 minus 9 is 16. But it's squared. We got to figure out how to get b by itself. So once again, do the inverse operation. So inverse operation would be doing a square root. So we're going to do the square root of b squared, and we'd have to do the same on the other side, square root of 16. Does anyone know what the square root of 16 is? That's right, 4. So b must equal 4. That side leg length is 4 inches. Awesome. Does that make sense? Let's try another. If a right triangle has a side length of 15 yards and the hypotenuse is 17 yards, what is the other leg length? So once again, starting with the hypotenuse is the longest side, and we can put the 15 on either side. We're trying to find that other leg length. So we'll plug our numbers, our variables in for the equation. And remember, we're going to use the inverse operations to solve. So we plugged 15 in for A, 17 in for C. We squared those. 15 times 15 is 225. 17 times 17 is 289. And what did we do last time? In order to get the 225 on the other side, how can we get b by itself, or b squared rather? We just subtract. So we subtract 225 from both sides, and we are left with b squared equals 64. And now we have to get it to be b, not b squared. So we're going to do the square root, because that's the inverse operation of squaring, is a square root. So we're going to do square root, and we get b equals 8. The square root of 64 is 8. So our side leg length is 8 yards. So this would be 8. Need one more to help you? All right, we'll do one more example, and then you guys can get ready to practice on your own. If a right triangle has a side length of 21 meters and the hypotenuse is 35 meters, what is the other leg length? So notice I put the question mark over here. That's fine. These are the different legs. Here's our hypotenuse, as long as we're keeping them on the right side. Here's our formula, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. We plugged in our numbers. We squared 21 and 35. We subtracted inverse operation to get it over here. If we were a minus 441, we would add it. Remember, inverse operation is just the opposite operation. So now we have b squared equals 784. We're going to do the inverse operation of squaring, which is square root, and b equals 28. So the side length is 28 meters. Remember to keep those units when they give you units. So go ahead and practice, guys. You got this. I believe in you. Talk to you soon.